We'll talk about turning of the chapter. The decade is coming to an end. 2010 to 2019 is basically done for sports. And we're going to start it off with the top 5 leaps of the decade. And the guys, I really hope Steve Dangle watches this or listens to this, because the 2010s for the Leafs is basically, this team is ruining my life. When I think of this team is ruining my life, when you think of the narrative of Steve Dangle, I think of 2010 to 2015. That's what I think of. Or you could get really creative, and you could do the 2004 to the 2013. But that's not in our video. We're doing 2010 to 2019. So with that being said, I got to start this list off with Pagniello. Pagniello, who is starting this beautiful list?
Hold on, are we doing honorable mentions?
We're doing honorable mentions, of course.
God. All right, this is going to be messy. To start it off, I got Nikolai Kulemin as an honorable mention. Wow. Second round pick of the Leafs, one of our very few homegrown talents around that time. Just a solid two-way / power forward goal scoring machine for like fucking 2 years. But yeah, I loved Kulemin. I said a lot of Mikheyev in him, so that type of player, I kind of miss him. When you look back on the last 10 years, he's one of the very few guys I miss, because it's a short list.
Oh my, very short.
I'll give you 2 more. I got Joffrey Lupul here.
Oh my God.
Because yeah, he's not on the top 5, boys. No.
I have 5 honorable mentions. I'll mention them after. But
yeah, Joffrey Lupul. Like, realistically, when we got him, like, so many injuries already, wasn't supposed to play. It was just take it and we'll see if he plays or not. And then he had like 2 60-point years with us.
He actually had like 2 years, like point per game almost.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to not mention his name. One more, Clark MacArthur.
I like it.
I gotta mention Clarky. Him, Grabo, and Cooley was probably the best second line for a while in the league. It's fun
that brings it back. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Clark, he was.
I thought he was one of the most consistent players. And this next line's going to be so bad. One of the most consistent Leaf players I've seen in my life.
That's true.
In my life. Just a solid two-way player. I forgot, Buddy popped him in Ottawa, and then his career was done.
Yeah.
But even when he went to Ottawa, he was meshing with tourists. I'm like, this is it for him. He's a solid player. A late bloomer. It started with the Leafs. Yeah. But those are my honorable mentions.
I love it. Kulemin, Lupul, and MacArthur. Damn, that's a start.
Oh my!
All right, this is gonna honorable, like a double honorable mention before the honorable. I got Thomas Caberlet.
Wow, at the end of the 2010,
and then they traded him to like Boston, and he won the cup. So he was there for 13 years, and to see him start the decade and then go on to win a cup.
That's pretty special.
That's a double honorable. But the honorable mentions, I got Nikolai Kulemin, 30 goal scorer. JVR.
Oh, wow, okay.
And on defense, Dion Phaneuf.
Hey, let's not laugh. We got to show Dion some love. Now I'm going to say my honorable mentions, and you guys are going to be like, that's not fucking fair. This shouldn't be a thing. So I basically did 10, but I'm just going to list these, I guess, 5 as the honorable mentions. James Reimer, to me, is an honorable mention because, as funny as it sounds, the lockout season was kind of fulfilling to me because we made the playoffs. That was something that should not have happened. We should have gotten a guy like a Nathan McKinnon or a Monahan that year, but instead we got a Freddie the Goat. James Reimer carried us to the playoffs that year. And as many people highlight Kadri's year that year, I highlight Reimer's the most. And the fact that he was with this team for 7 straight years, and no one remembers, but I vividly do, in the 2010 season, he carried us. He played 35 games, a .921 save at the tender age of 21 years old. So the hype, for me alone, puts James Reimer on that list at number 10. Another guy I have in my honorable mentions, Dion Phaneuf. He was here for 7 years, and he was arguably a top 10, yes, I'm saying it, a top 10 defenseman on his way to the Toronto Maple Leafs So the hype was there. He got handed the captaincy. One of the best leaders, at least, maybe not from. It's hard to say he's like one of the best leaders of all time because it's kind of far-fetched. But man, he was here for what, 7-8 seasons. He was in a league when penalties actually mattered, and he would do that. And he was a nice enforcer, not the best point producer, but damn, he was a great leader. And of course, another honorable mention I got to say, I got to put Freddie Andersen in there as one of the best Leafs because again, he's already passed Reimer for games, and he's already at a 918 save in his career with the Leafs, and he's already at what, like 100+ wins with the Leafs, which is just absolutely absurd. But now we got to start the top 5 list, and Pagniello, I'm gonna pass this one to you. Let's try not to laugh as much, but let's get this one going.
There it is. Number 5, Freddie Andersen.
There it is.
I had to put him in there because he's the only goalie that I've seen from the Leafs. Because, yeah, he's one of the few guys who came in with hype and actually delivered. And it might not be fair because he's, well, I don't know, was his 3rd year with us? 3rd, 4th year?
I think this is his 4th.
Yeah, so and he's still in his late 20s. Out of all the stars that are on the team right now, like if there's any other goalie, if you just take any average goalie and put him in that spot, we're not that relevant.
No.
So Freddie saves a lot of games for the Leafs. I have to put him in here. Yeah, he's the goalie of the future. Love him. Everyone loves Freddie. Number 5 for me.
For me, I was debating whether to put Reimer or Freddie. I go with Freddie at number 5 just because of the games played and success he's had. He's always in the discussion of maybe getting a Vezina nomination, maybe even winning the Vezina every year. Reimer didn't, even though he had like a few great seasons. But without Frederik Andersen in net, this team is looking bad. It's looking rough back there because of all the shots he has to take each game, all the saves he has to make. So Freddie Andersen, number 5.
Now, before I started with mine, I mean, again, a couple honorable mentions I had. They're going to be in the 2020s list 100%. It's Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner. I had to have them in the top 10 in the 2010s. It's kind of funny to say they've played like 4 seasons both respectively, but guess what? Auston Matthews already has 130 goals, and that's probably like top 20 all time already for Leafs all time. And this kid's actually a freak. We haven't seen anybody be around a point per game since Matt Sundin, and the fact with Marner and Matthews doing that alone, I have him in the top 10. So, but I'm going to start with my number 5. Tyler Bozak is my number 5. He played 594 games with this team, and he came out of college, and a lot of people didn't really know a lot about Tyler Bozak. There was a lot of hype behind him. He comes in, probably one of the best third-line centers the Leafs have probably ever had. It's funny because he was playing first line for majority of that. But, man, he was just amazing with JVR and Phil Kessel for, I'll say, the 3-4 years they were together. Tyler Bozak, for me, one of the most underrated Leafs of all time. He tallied 365 points in 594 games. I think he went undrafted, which is also another pretty cool story. Tyler Bozak also just won a cup. I'm so happy for him. He's also one of those guys that came to the Leafs, and he was just one of those guys that absolutely adored the city and the fans. And when he left, it actually kind of hurt. It stung a bit. So for me, he's number 5, Tyler Bozak.
Number 4 was tough because I'm going through every season. I'm like, you got to have some criteria here. I can't do it for a 1-year rental. Went with Nazem Kadri. Was there throughout. Ron Wilson, they had their differences of what he thought of him. Then Randy Carlyle came in, give him more of an opportunity. And then Mike Babcock, we saw what he did with Nazem Kadri. And Kadri has had to adapt to all these systems. He continued to progress as a player and performer in different roles. I have him at 4 just because of what he did in the playoffs each year when you need him. And it's always a suspension here, a suspension there. He would have been higher on the list if he kept his cool. Maybe got us through one round, but I got Nazem Kadri, number 4.
Number 4, James Van Riemsdyk, who we traded Luke Schenn to acquire, which is honestly my favorite part of his entire career. The fact that we, at the time it was It was a very big trade because there were two 21, 22-year-olds at the time. Still a
Two
lot of
big
potential.
what ifs.
Yeah, and JVR was rocked with injuries the year before. Shen was like good year, bad year, good year, bad year. So there were still kind of questions there. But, you know, JVR with us, like the injuries disappeared. I think he got injured once in 6 years with us.
Yeah, 1 year.
Consistent 25 to 30 goal scorer. Gets 50 to 60 every year. I love JVR. We can really use a guy like that now, just a big, skilled power forward who plays in front of the net. I think he's ageless, and he'll do what he's doing for another 6-7 years.
Yeah, number 4 is JVR as well. He came to the Leafs for Luke Schenn alone. At the time, I was like, yeah, that's great. Again, two big what-if players in this generation and in this decade, but JVR, of course, has surpassed Luke Schenn, obviously. But he's played 413 games with the Leafs, and when I look at that, that's saying a lot because Luke Schenn barely played with Philly, and he was our secondary leading. Okay, he was the second best scorer on the Leafs for 3 of the 6 years he was here. And yeah, he had just 1 year where he got injured. And I remember in the lockout year, he had 18 goals in 44 games, tied with Kadri. Kessel had 20 that year. And then, of course, JVR, he put up a couple 30-goal, back-to-back 30-goal years with the Leafs. You don't do that all that often, especially in Toronto. You don't see it a lot. And yeah, JVR, again, a lot of people bash him for his gameplay. Some games he would show up, others he wouldn't. But for the most part, he was beloved in Toronto. He's number 4 on my list.
Number 3, Auston Matthews. He did play a majority of the decade when you think about it with the Leafs since he got drafted first overall, came in with a lot of hype. First game, scores 4 goals. First season, rookie of the year, 40-goal year. And then what you've seen, he's a face of the team. I don't care if Tavares is a captain. Matthews is the face of the franchise. He's on the video games. He's the marketable guy. Tavares is just shaking hands, kissing babies, and making promo videos on YouTube and the Leafs thing. So I think Matthews, it's his team, and it's just going to carry over in the next decade.
Number 3, Nazem fucking Kadri. I just love everything about his story and the way he came up. I've never seen a player with so many ups and downs in my life. He came in with all the skill in the world, and there were a lot of things that he had to change, and we didn't know if he could play at the NHL level, and then he showed over time that he has that physical edge and really turned into that two-way skilled centerman that Berkey thought he would turn into. So he played 10 years with us. 10 underrated years. Like when we first traded him, we're like, holy shit, we drafted him in 2009. So he's been here for a long time. We've seen him grow. Like he was a star in the Marlies, and we're like, oh, is he going to make the jump? And then it transitioned well, and he's been a mainstay with us for a while. So wish him well in Colorado, and he's at number 3.
Yeah. Number 3 is Nazem Kadri. And again, me and Pagniello, we are doing this routine, same list again. It's usually how it goes. Kadri is 3rd for me, and the only reason why he's 3rd and not like an Auston Matthews is, again, you got to look at the tenor. He's played 561 games with the Leafs. That takes a toll. And when he got traded, I literally cried. I'll never forget it. At first, we got Barry, we got Kerfoot. I was very happy. But then I'm thinking about it, and it's like, you got to remember the memories with Kadri, and there were just so many. Like, I remember I went to the playoff game, and Kadri decked Marchand, and I just lost my shit. That's a memory I'll never forget. And Kadri, every time he used to deck Gallagher, he always used to get very, very excited, very amped up. He was just a guy that you loved on your team. And now that I see Nazem Kadri on another team, it just you look at that, and it's a big what if, because I really wanted him to be with this team. And if, God forbid, if the Leafs were to ever win a Stanley Cup, I really wanted to see Nazem Kadri on that team, and it's unfortunate that he had to get suspended those 2 straight playoffs. And Aulino, it hurts Aulino to bring it up, but it's a part of the game. That's the thing I loved about Naz. No one brought that edge like he did, and you could criticize him for getting suspended, but he would go out of his way, and he would do that for his teammates. And that's just saying so much for him as a character. And Brian Burke saw a lot out of him. I know he wanted Braden Shen. He got Nazem Kadri instead. And quite frankly, for me, that's not a consolation prize. Nazem Kadri, to me, is number 3 on the list. And if he was still on the team, he could potentially be higher.
Number 2, a man who Berkey thought, we had him first overall. And Bettman laughed with that bobblehead. And, yeah, okay. Morgan Rielly. Number 2. You saw what this guy coming into that draft, what he did. He was hurt, still goes high. And you look at everybody in front of him, where their careers have gone, right down the shitter. And Morgan Rielly is just an unbelievable player right now for the Leafs. Still to this day, he's been one of the most high impactful players. A bright spot for the team when they're bad. Long term, you can still see him rocking that blue uniform many years to come, lifting trophies hopefully. But his offensive game has really taken off since he's been drafted. Every year, no matter where they put him in the lineup, he's made the most of every opportunity, and he still continues to be a focal point. So he's my number 2.
Number 2, Phil Kessel.
Oh.
Multiple 30-goal seasons with the Leafs. Acquired him in a controversy. The 2 first-round picks. It didn't start off well.
Didn't start off well, no.
Not at all. But everything that was asked of Phil, he came in, put up 30 every year, 50 to 60 points. He had a couple 80-point years with us. He was our main scorer for a very long time, and he was relied on with, guys like Bozak and Lupul, and you thought, oh, maybe if he had a certain guy, we'd be pushed over into the playoffs. But he did he worked with what he could for all those years, and he was a star with us for a while. I have a Phil Kessel jersey. We're all on that bandwagon. You gotta love Phil. Everyone loves him now more than ever since the 2 cups, and he's just he's a solid name in the NHL. He's really, I think he's going in the Hall of Fame in time.
Oh, me too. I'm with you on that.
The guy's a beauty.
See, number 2 is Phil Kessel too, and we have the same list. 4 to 1 is the same, and it's just we think the same. I don't know what it is. Phil Kessel, I only put him number 2, not 1, because again, we're thinking of 2010s here. He led the Leafs for 5 straight years, 2010 to 2015. Phil Kessel was the guy. Kessel. He had 64, 82, 82, 64, 82, and then 52 in the lockout. Then 82 again, and then like 64. So Phil, if you think about it, as bad as that trade was, him coming to the Leafs, and how controversial and how monumental it was, he delivered. By all means, he delivered. He put up 394 and 446. That's almost a point a game. Again, he was that type of player. Offensively, you could argue he replaced Matt Sundin. And we could laugh about that, saying that, but it's damn true, man. He led the team for 5 straight years in points. And you can make fun of him. It's Phil Kessel, blah, blah, blah. He's a milk bag, all this, that, the other. But when it came down to it scoring, he never disappointed. And he was a part of really bad Leafs. So I got to give him respect. He's my number 2. And we all know Aulino's number 1.
David Clarkson. Nah, I'm joking. Yeah, definitely Phil Kessel. And you brought it up there about the trade. Let's go over that trade with Tyler Seguin. Where did he end up going after? Dallas? Shortly after. What did he win in Dallas? I haven't heard his name. You know what Phil Kessel did? Played every single game. 82 games a year. Whatever it was in the lockout. Every single game. Doesn't take a break. Even if he's hurt, he still played like a warrior. Playoff performer, point per game. Every single year, how shit that team was. He still made that team exciting.
Every
Goals, 30 each year.
30. And he would laugh.
That anchor, a fucking Lupul. He carried him to 66 and 65. You know how good you have to be to do that?
I mean, he got picked last in the All-Star game, and Lupul was the captain.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the most backwards thing I've ever seen in my life. Okay, what was that? 2011?
Oh, you got your years mixed up.
Was that 2011?
Yeah, year after they traded him for Seguin. They did the trade.
Damn, but still, when I remember, Lupul as an A in an All-Star game. What? I'm thinking about that now, and I'm like, hey, I'm not that old, but the fact that I'm thinking about that is absurd.
That's bad.
That's absurd. No. And the fact that Kessel was picked last. Kessel is the reason. I agree with Aulino. Kessel's the reason Lupul was a point-a-game player in Toronto. Not saying he was bad, Lupul. I'm just saying Kessel was a god.
And let's not forget who the player he made. James Van Riemsdyk made him the player that he is. And then after that, of course, Babcock comes in. Maybe he was jealous of Phil. He's like, oh, this guy doesn't work out. He's this good. What the hell's going on here? I think he was jealous. Pushed him out. Leafs are paying $1.2 million. So you can technically say Phil Kessel's still on the Leafs, still performing. And he got 2 back-to-back cups in Pittsburgh, one for each middle finger. Like Kawhi was saying how we got a inscribed thing. Kessel has 2 now, one for each middle finger. He can flip the bird to both Shanahan, Babcock, whoever he wants.
He could eat all the hot dogs he wants.
He could. All the media members that try to push him out. But they wish they had Phil Kessel back in town, scoring goals and making stuff exciting and giving some writing material. So Phil Kessel, for me, the Leaf of the decade.
If I'm reaching out for someone and wanting the Leafs to acquire somebody when their career winds down, it's Phil Kessel. Because you look at how his career just took off in Toronto. We knew he was good in Boston. But when he came to Toronto, he made himself a name in this league. And it's just so funny talking about Phil Kessel like an icon that he is. 2 cups. One of the greatest Leafs of all time. I mean, in our lifetime. I mean, you can't compare him to Johnny Bower and Boreas Salming and all those names.
It's a tricky game.
It's a tricky game. You can't compare decades. But if we're looking at this decade, just look at what the Sharks just did with Marleau. They brought him back. Wouldn't you? You're telling me you wouldn't want a 37, 36-year-old Phil Kessel on the 4th line?
Yeah, put him with Spezza. See how he does.
Scoring 10 goals a year. Let's do it.
I want Phil Kessel on my team when his career is coming to an end.
Still got that jersey, so when he comes back,
same.
I'm wearing that. Just got it saved.
Is this it?
Yep.
Alrighty. Number 1, Morgan Rielly, drafted 5th overall by the Toronto Maple Leafs, 2012. I think only like 2 guys we've said have been actually drafted by us, Rielly and Kadri. So to me, it kind of pushes it over the edge.
That does
for
too.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah, he went back to junior his first year and then just right into the NHL and playing the prominent role because, Phaneuf and Rielly, and that's literally it we had at the time. So he came in putting up 25, 30 points a year. He was mainly in that defensive role for a while, and it wasn't until 2 seasons ago where he got that 55-point year, and we all thought, okay, this is the year Mo's going to break out. He's got all the talent around him.
I thought that was the breakout. I'm not even going to lie. I thought 55 was kind of like, okay, that's
for sure.
Yeah.
And then we felt like, oh, you'll get around the same next year, and you'll consistently do this. And then
72.
72.
Like, okay.
20 goals. So there's just so much to his game. He's got the defensive side down. Babs reamed that into him. I give Babcock so much credit for that. The first 2 years he was here with Mo. And then the offensive game, it's natural to him. Offensive guy in junior. He was one-dimensional, apparently, coming into the league. So he's really grown his game. He's only 25, 26 years old. It's a bold move putting him at number 1. But going forward, he's going to be a staple for the Leafs, and you're going to look back over time and think Morgan Rielly, one of the better defensemen in Toronto Maple Leafs history. So I got him at 1.
I don't think it's far-fetched that you have him number 1 at all, actually. I love Phil Kessel. I think he's an icon in this city. We all have his jersey. He's beloved, all that. But, man, Morgan Rielly, 5th overall in 2012. Again, 2012, you look back at that draft, it's a train wreck in itself. I'm not discounting anyone in that draft. I'm just saying the results. Yakupov and Murray, that's just not good at all. So the fact that Rielly came to the Leafs and we got him, that's a gift in itself. How many players in Leafs history that you can remember or have the right to potentially play 1,000 games with the Leafs? For me, Matt Sundin, did he play 1,000 games with the Leafs? Maybe just under 1,000 games? To me, Morgan Rielly is going to play 1,000 games with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And for me, he might be going to when it's all said and done, I'm not saying he's going to be a Leaf forever. I want him to be, but I envision that, and I can see him at the end of it being a top 5 games played Leaf in all of its history. That's why, for me, Morgan Rielly's number 1.
I got to throw in, too, just the way he carries himself, similar to the way Tavares does.
He's just an absolute leader. Absolute leader.
For me, that was my pick for captain because you look at his whole story being drafted by us and coming up with us and growing his game. For me, that was the perfect pick.
It was,
so,
yeah.
Him and Tavares 1-2, that's awesome stuff. I love it.
It's just, Phil Kessel, again, he played 415. The fact that he's second, that's huge. And for you, he's number one. But
So top 2 we got.
again, Morgan Riley's already played 500 plus, and that's insane. He's 26 years old. I think he's easily going to be number one all time. That's my opinion. I'm going to predict that right now. When his career comes to an end, I'll say 37, 38 years old, you're going to be looking at Morgan Riley leading the Leafs franchise in games played. That is what I am going to say, but Morgan Riley, I think, is here for the long haul. When his contract's up, just give him the world because it's Morgan damn Riley. But, man, we did top 10, well, basically top 10 Leafs. Talked about, Kuhlman and Lupul, and we had to show him some love.